When it comes to what your family eats and drinks, you know your choices matter. You're the expert because you know what fits your life. And getting it right starts with good information. That's why America's beverage companies are sharing more information about our ingredients at goodtoknowfacts.org. No spin, no judgments, just the facts straight from the experts for more than 140 beverage ingredients. Visit goodtoknowfacts.org.
That you took an extended period away. And, we're going to be talking about resilience today. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about well-being. And one of the misnomers around sort of the myths of resilience and mental health and well-being is this idea of quickly recovering, right? That it's about coming back, as fast as we can.
What is going on, everybody? Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, The Determined Society. I am your host, Shawn French. No, I wasn't held hostage, but I was MIA for quite some time. And if you follow me and watch my stories, you know exactly where I've been and why I took some time off. And I always told myself I wouldn't come back until I was ready and have perspective and not giving my family just the crumbs. They had to get all of me before I came back. And additionally, I wanted to make sure that when I came back, I was going to interview a guest with high integrity and really speaking about and living what they're talking about. So today I have an amazing guest, y'all. She is a #1 international expert on resilience. She's a keynote speaker, author of the brand new book, The 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People. She is the host of the Flourish or Fold podcast. Her mission is to impact the lives of 1 billion people by enhancing hope, healing, and health through the concepts of resilience. Everybody, welcome Dr. Taryn Marie. How you doing, my friend?
Oh,
We're here.
Thank you for that. I'm so delighted to be here and to be part of your big return to the podcast stage. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. It's funny because in life, when we don't acknowledge how we're truly feeling and we don't honor ourselves where we're at, we can tend to get spun out of control. And for me, I was constantly looking at that comparison thing. Why can't I get my show here? Why is my business not flourishing? I don't want to do 9 to 5 anymore. And then I realized, wait a second, this is not why I started this thing in the first place. I just wanted to do a podcast and I wanted to impact people and speak real into the world. And so that's where we're at now, right? That's where we're at. I'm not going to worry about ratings. I'm not going to worry about anything else. I do want thousands of people listening to the show. So everybody, if you're listening, share it, because this is going to be a guest that people are going to get a lot out of. And, I'm also equally delighted to have you on my show.
I love that. Well, I was really struck by just what you shared in the introduction. 2 things. You said a lot of beautiful things, but 2 things really stood out for me. One was, that you took an extended period away. And, we're going to be talking about resilience today. We're going to be talking about mental health. We're going to be talking about well-being. And one of the misnomers around sort of the myths of resilience and mental health and well-being is this idea of quickly recovering, right? That it's about coming back, as fast as we can. And it was interesting. So I'm here in Austin, Texas today. I live in the Philadelphia area, but I'm here in Austin. And I was speaking at the University of Texas at Austin, and the gentleman that I had been interacting with and who, was helping me plan coming to campus and speaking, he wasn't there yesterday. And they said, he had his wisdom teeth out on Friday. And he said, I'll be back on Monday. Right. And it was Wednesday, and he still wasn't back. And for me, it was just such a reminder of, we oftentimes think we can or will come back a lot sooner. And the opportunity, I think, for us to really give ourselves the time that we need to to heal, to integrate, to make a transition, to shore up our relationships. And I just love that you gave yourself that time, you know? And the second thing that I loved about what you said is you also had sort of like a sense of what that was going to look like, right?
Mm-hmm.
You didn't just say, I'm going to take some time off and spend time with family. You really had a sense that you wanted and needed to get to a place where you were more present, where your family wasn't getting the leftovers. I think you said the crumbs.
Yeah.
And that there was a lot of clarity for you around not only the taking of the time off, but what you wanted to get to and how you wanted to enhance your relationships with your family members and what that would actually look like and when you would know it was time to come back.
I receive all that, and thank you. It's you know, one of the things that I realized was I was getting angry, right? I was getting
Mm-hmm.
angry too much. And, you know, I always wanted it quiet in my house when I was recording. I got, you know, 3 little babies, man. I got a 9-year-old boy, a 6-year-old daughter, and a 4-year-old daughter. That's, you know, for me, that's what matters, because they're only going to be, and everybody says this, but they're only going to be little for a short period of time. I don't want to look back and be like, I missed it because I was chasing, you know, top 1% podcast ratings or podcast advertisement, you know, money or anything like that. Like, that's not who I am. It's not what I want to be, you know? So for me, it was just one of these things. Like, one day I just sat there and I'm like, man, I'm doing this for them. I'm doing this for them. And I said, wait a second. Am I?
Mm-hmm.
Am I really doing this for them? Because if I ask them, they'd rather be jumping on me and playing right now, not me
Mm-hmm.
recording a podcast. So I had to really kind of like, all right, dude, like, you're lost. You're in the abyss right now. Back off. Right.
Mm-hmm.
And I initially thought, to your point, you know, there was no time frame. For me, initially, I was like, I just don't want to record a show this week, and I have some in the queue. I have some, you know, and I just couldn't bring myself to edit them. Like,
Mm-hmm.
it was this feeling right in my gut. I'm like, I want to throw up right now. Like, I don't want to do it. So I didn't. Right. And, you know, going back to what you just said, something really struck me as well. You talked about this gentleman that thought that, you know, hey, I'm going to be back in 2 days. What is it about us that thinks that we're going to recover quicker? Right. I have my own theories and I want to talk about mine, but I
Sure.
want to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a couple of things, you know.
It's a loaded question. I know.
No, I don't think it's loaded at all. You know, I mean, the first thing I'd say is I think there's a lot of societal pressure to be okay and to be well
Mm-hmm.
and to come back, and that there's something sort of bound up in all of this that, you know, maybe it's like a hero or a heroine complex that we think, you know, I'm gonna get my wisdom teeth out on Friday. I'm going to, you know, run a 5-mile race on Saturday. On Sunday, I'm going to find a cure for, you know, some intractable disease. I'm going to end world hunger. And on Monday, I'll be back to work.
Easy.
Right?
Easy peasy.
Easy.
Yeah.
Easy,
Fine.
breezy.
Yeah.
Lemon
It's nothing.
squeezy.
Yeah.
So I think, I mean, I feel this sense of pressure,
Mm-hmm.
right, in society to be okay, to be well, and even to do more than I think is humanly possible. And so I think if I feel it, there's elements of that other people are feeling too. So I think the first thing is, you know, there is sort of a sense of pressure and expectation. I mean, maybe not to run the race or to cure a disease or, you know, or things like that,
Mm-hmm.
but this sense of like being okay, right? I'm going to have this procedure on Friday and then I'm going to be okay and be well by Monday. And the second thing is, you know, I think these timelines that we give ourselves are super arbitrary and they're not really based in fact or in research. and there's this tendency, I think, like when we have like surgery or something and the doctor says, it's going to take you 2 months to recover. Just about everybody I know, and my background's in like rehabilitation psychology, just about everybody I know is like, oh yeah, 2 months. Well, it's going to take me one, like somehow we want to like beat the odds constantly. It's like, why do we want to do that? Why not just take the 2 months? Why not just say, you know what, it's going to take 2 months, and that's okay. And I'm okay with, taking the time that my body and mind needs to be okay. And, one of the things that I found, as I've interviewed hundreds of people and collected thousands of pieces of data on resilience, is like quickly recovering is a myth as it relates to resilience. In fact, it's the people oftentimes that come back fast that actually have some of the greatest difficulties or issues, or they have the trauma resurface, or the health concern sort of reoccur because they haven't, or we haven't sort of given ourselves the time to heal. And so this idea of like whoever the fastest person is to recover, like that's actually not resilience. And I think getting to change the discourse around that in our culture, where we allow ourselves the time for healing, is really powerful.
Wow. Amazing. Like a lot to unpack there. The one thing that I always like to add a little humor into my show. I think it's funny, but I'm a dad. It's probably a dad joke, but we talked about, you just mentioned like, hey, it says, it's 2 months. It's going to take me a month, and we're all in this race. It's like when you get in your car or your truck or whatever you're driving, you're heading, to across town. It tells you it's going to take 15 minutes. I'm like, bet it's going to take me 10. Like, I'm going to try to get there quicker. And I don't know. And again, I agree with everything you're saying, but I just thought that was pretty funny because that's the first thing that popped in my mind. It was like, I'm always trying to beat the GPS, right? It's like Google Maps, no. And I'm always wrong, like truthfully. And I think what we all need to learn is it's going to take what it's going to take, right? Like literally, like get off your own, your arbitrary timeline. There's no basis surrounding it. Like literally just submit to the process and just go. Right. For me, like I always think of it like this. I think there's so much baked in hustle culture that you can open your phone. Right. And the hustle culture is by big influential people that people truly believe that they have all their, what together. Okay. And you can look at your phone and it's to be like, oh, you only got 2 hours of sleep. So what? Get up and go to the gym. Like, go do this, go do that. And I submitted to that hustle culture for 2 years in this process. And that's why I got burned out. That's why I ended up where I was at, like completely uninspired. And to your point, I always found myself as a determined individual, hence the name, the Determined Society, resilient. I'm always bouncing back. But what I've learned is I wasn't taking enough time. And so what I do, just when I thought I was ready to get back, I'm like, no, you're not. You are going to wait for the universe or God to tell you when it's time. And I was open. I was completely open, but I felt the time off is exactly where I needed to be. And, when you messaged me and I'm like, okay, yeah, this is that nudge. And so I appreciated it. And I don't even know if you probably realized the part you were playing in it. Now you do. And
now I do.
Yeah.
Now I do. Yeah. And I think that's something powerful too. I didn't highlight that in what I said initially, and that is also super powerful because I'm in this moment of launching my book this week, The 5 Practices of Highly Resilient People. And so I've been reaching out to, people that I know super well, friends, colleagues, and also reaching out, toward the edges and the people that are farther out in my community, right? And asking for help, right? And saying, hey, like no pressure expectation, right? Here's what I'm doing. I'd love your help as it aligns for you. Here's maybe some things that we could do together that would be mutually beneficial or would be a win-win. And like, I've sucked it up the last couple months and done it. It also doesn't come it doesn't come naturally
Mm-hmm.
for me to reach out. I mean, I will ask for help. This has been a moment of like the broadest scale, the broadest swath of like just like asking like everyone and their mom, like literally everyone and their mom, like, hey, will you buy a book and will you call your mom? And all and like it really is like everyone and then your mom, right? And so, and it's really humbling
Yeah.
to be in this moment. And it's also really beautiful to see who shows up and who's excited about that. And then the next layer is exactly what you said, which is not even realizing that in my reaching out to you and saying, hey, would you like to be a part of this? Would you like to help get this message out? That also in this sort of like beautiful, like universal flow for you became the moment where you're like, okay, I'm ready to come back.
Yeah.
And that is so amazing. And I think we get to think about that when we reach out to people and we ask for help and we ask for support, that some people won't want to do it. And some people will want to do it, but just simply won't have capacity. And then there'll be other people that not only want to help, but something meaningful will click or shift inside of them.
Mm-hmm.
And it becomes this, incredible interaction that is meaningful, in a way that, I had not anticipated and I'm so excited about.
Me too. And it's funny because like, I think for me, and we're going to get to her book because you need to buy it. Mine's in the mail. I'm hoping she overnights it. But sorry guys, I actually get a signed copy and I'm jacked about it. So I'm kind of geeking out over here. But you're right. We never know what role we're playing in people's lives. And I think it's super important to really kind of dive into because it goes as simple as how you interact with that person that upset you at the grocery store. Like, you don't know what they're going through. Like, put your best foot forward. And I think for me, what really stuck out to me in our interaction as it led up to this show, started talking like 4 days ago, was just your humility. Because you say, it humbled you. And I could see it. I'm like, not that I had any other, thought or preconceived notion that you weren't humble, but I could just, in the ask, I was like, Taryn, 1000%, like 1000%, which we will still do the live. I want to do the live still. Cool. But for me, it was just like, this person, right, that I've had an interaction with before, very successful, literally kindly asking for help or asking just to partner up in something. I'm like, yeah, I can't, I'll never tell a person no like that. Right. And we all get these long DMs in our inbox about, how they can turn you into a 9-figure business owner in 15 days. Right. Those we don't.
Wait, that's not real. I shouldn't
not.
I shouldn't reply to those people.
No, you shouldn't reply to them. I mean, like, for only $10,000 up front, first payment, you could be the 9-figure business owner by using my funnel. Okay.
Using my funnel.
It's a joke. It's funny because a part of my comeback, I always said I would have some satire around those types of things. And so I kind of slid it in on my first show. But I think
see what you did.
It
already happened.
Opportunistic. I don't know. I just feel that people do need to be educated, and be aware of the good people out there in the industry and not fall for the bright, shiny object that's going to make them rich in 2 months. Cause it's not going to happen.
I think that's right. I'll tell you in this moment with this book launch, so one of the cool things that happened this week is the book and me were featured on the NASDAQ tower.
Dude, I saw that. So sick.
It was so sick. And a couple people, it's interesting the sort of range of reactions that people have to that, right? And so one reaction, was me, which was like, I think my lips are taking up like 6 offices,
Oh my
you know?
God, Taryn.
Another, and people were excited and they were congratulating. And then I had a couple people say, like, is this real? And then I had a few other people say, like, sort of, how did you do that? How did that happen? Right. And, one of the things that I think is so powerful for us as we talk about like the flourishing and the folding and the resilience is we often don't see the toil and the hard work and the things that go on behind the scenes to get there, right? So behind the NASDAQ tower, right, is 20 years of research, right? It's a graduate degree. It's being a management consultant. It's working in the corporate world. It's founding my own company and then having COVID show up and all of my business that I had booked basically with a handshake with colleagues disappear. And me thinking as a single mom who's the head of my own household, like, if I can't pay my mortgage and we get evicted in the midst of this COVID thing, like, do the kids come with me to the homeless shelter or would I visit them at like my former husband's house? How would that, like it was these were like real, I was like sewing socks and making like peanut butter and jelly sandwiches because I wasn't sure. None of us knew like what was going to happen with COVID and what was going to happen in that moment. And I had founded my company in 2017, but it didn't have any revenue because I was working at Cigna as head of global leadership development and at Nike as head of executive development. So even all those grants that came for business owners who had, income on the books for prior years, I wasn't eligible. And so now in sort of this, we'll call it the NASDAQ tower in Times Square moment. It's been so beautiful and so exciting. And there's also, tremendous kind of toil and sacrifice that I think typically happens behind the scenes. It's that sort of 20-year overnight success.
Yeah, the 2-decade overnight success that you are, which what really spoke to me was I'm sitting here listening, right? Because everybody has their life story. And, 3 years ago, you're stitching socks, worried about where your kids are going to go and making peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. And now you're on the NASDAQ, right? Now we've launched this book. It's going to impact lives. You have an amazing platform. You're doing amazing things. And God and the universe provided for you. And now your worst fear did not happen. And I want people, for those of you that are listening right now, I really want you to look at this. All her contact information as far as her Instagram page and everything like that, it's going to be in this show, the show notes. But go to her page and look at it and scroll all the way down to 2 to 3 years ago. And you'll probably find that everything looks okay, right? She's sitting there, still working, still doing everything to provide for her family. You guys do not know what goes on behind the scenes of any individual that you come across in your life. So when someone makes it on the NASDAQ board of their life, hug them, let them know that's amazing. Asking them how it happened or is this real can come off hurtful. I'm sorry. It really is. Those people don't understand. Right. So for you though, your initial reaction, I'm sure there was much more about, I think my lips take up 6 offices. Like, to me, it's just like, it's in that moment though, right? It's like, oh my gosh, there I am. As the person in it, we don't sit there and go back the 3 years and be like, my lips can take up 10 offices. I don't give a, what, because guess what? I was living on PB&J 3 years ago. This is dope. I'm proud of you.
Thank you. Thank you. To be clear, when I saw it, I was also like, is this real? Wow. I had a similar reaction. And I think it's such a testament to this idea that life can always change, and that goes both ways, right? It's about enjoying the beautiful moments, the mountaintop moments, we can call them, where we get to that summit and we see the beautiful view and we celebrate the success and everything is wonderful, and also being down in that valley, right? The valley of COVID, the valley of, wondering how I was going to pay my mortgage, of, basically, standing next to my, 5 and 8-year-old and making sure that they did their like online schooling, and then being mom, and then figuring out how I was going to make this company profitable as the world was continuing to shift and change in such a perceptible way. And, I think for all of us, we've all been in moments where we've felt, well, and I'll just speak for myself. I've been in moments where I've felt deeply discouraged, deeply afraid and uncertain of what the future holds, trapped, uncertain, unsure, insecure. I couldn't find the door. I couldn't see the path. I didn't, know the way out. Right. And in those moments, I remember thinking like, well, this is just who I am now. Like, I'm just this trapped, insecure, afraid, person, and I think it's so tempting to think that, we're always going to feel bad. Things are always going to be difficult. And the truth is, that nothing in life really lasts forever. Very few things last forever. And, we all have those mountaintop moments and we all have those valley moments. And being able, I think, to still have perspective when we're on the mountaintop and to say this success is amazing and let me use this for the good and let me soak all of this up and let me just feel this into the core and into the fiber of my being and allow myself and my family and the people that I care about for us to really have this moment, right? And then when we're down in the valley, to also recognize like we get to learn the lessons there. We get to feel all of that in a really tangible, palpable way. And to recognize that too won't last forever. And I think there's a lot of people, that are really hurting right now. It's been, sort of a series of unfortunate events, right? And sort of many people's lives as humans, where we looked forward to kind of COVID ending and things, going back to normal.
Yeah.
And nothing has gone, well, very few things have gone back to normal. And then we've just continued to sort of, I think, be in this sea of what I call the 3 C's, the challenges, the changes, and the complexity. And it's been a rough time. And I think we get to remind ourselves that, nothing lasts forever, not the good or the bad.
That's amazing. And yes, I will say, like, we have not been able to take a breath for 3 years. It's one thing after another. It's almost like, all right, like enough is enough. Right. But so I want to address that. I think that's a really cool thing to also be grateful for, because when we come out of it as a society, maybe we'll all get along again. I don't know, or at least respect each other a little bit better. I mean, for me, that's what I want out of everything. I want a more common respect for individuals and people to appreciate things about everybody instead of focusing on the negative or what they disagree with. But there's this one part you spoke about, you were feeling insecure, being trapped, right? And why I feel this is so powerful, because you're an expert. You're the #1 international expert on resilience. And I want my audience to be acutely aware of the fact that experts still struggle with their own things, right? So for you, and I want you to give some tips maybe to the individual that is or individuals that are listening to this that may feel that trapped sense or insecure, what are some things that they can do daily that'll bring them out of that slowly and surely?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. You know, for me, and I think for a lot of people, who would naturally gravitate toward your podcast, right? To gravitate toward the Determined Society, maybe something that a lot of us have in common is, I'll use sort of a corporate term, right? Is the sort of idea of learning agility, right?
Mm.
And what's learning agility? It's the ability to seek out, right, new facts and figures and ways of doing things and then quickly apply them. And I think for people that are determined and people that are entrepreneurs and people that are on a growth and development journey, oftentimes one of the things that we have in common is just this ability to figure things out,
Mm-hmm.
right? To know what to do, even if we don't know what to do, and one of the hardest things for me in moments, this was during 2022, when I felt trapped. I was in a relationship. It was very different than I thought. I had moved in with the person and with my two sons, and it was not going the way that I hoped it would or the way that I wanted it to. And I felt very trapped. And the hardest thing for me, about feeling trapped was the not knowing what to do. Because so often I feel like I know what to do, even when I don't know what to do.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'll figure it out. And I didn't know what to do. And so I think the first thing to do when you don't know what to do is to acknowledge that you don't know what to do. Right?
I love that. I think that to that point, there's a lot of people out there, and this is what drives me crazy personally. When someone asks me a question and I'll say, I hear what you're saying. I just don't know what to do. And the
Mm-hmm.
comeback is, you know exactly what to do. That drives me crazy because you cannot know exactly what to do 100% of the time. You can slowly start to figure it out by doing some actions, like just maybe moving a little bit more in certain areas, right? I mean, it's just like telling somebody that's never worked out in their life and never watched their nutrition and they're 60 pounds overweight and say, you know exactly what you need to do. They may not. They may not. I mean, that's a generalization. People cannot just put that on people. But that to your point though, like I just want to acknowledge that for people that are listening, you may not know what to do. And that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. It's interesting that you say that, right? Because as someone who's worked in leadership development and, as an executive coach and kind of works with people, there's this sort of general belief or idea, right? That like everything we need exists and lives within us.
Mm-hmm.
And then to your point, there's also this sort of practical and tangible element in these moments of knowing what to do. And yeah, I think you're right. We don't always know what to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
So my belief is the strength and the wisdom and the talent and the capability and the gumption, it all lives within us,
Mm-hmm.
right? And then part of that process for me of feeling trapped was like finding those things within myself, right? And then also figuring out practically how I was going to solve for this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right. I was thinking something else about that. I know what it was. So this is really cool. So when we think about this word resilience, right? Someone a while back came to me and they told me about a word in the English language I had never heard of called Silience. 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 right? I never knew about this word. And this word means to uncover within us the latent talents and strengths and sort of hidden treasures of our capability, right? And then I was like, I want to say a curse word here. I want to say the S word, but I won't.
So like,
So
I'm just gonna be straight up with you. Like, this is probably the first show I haven't cursed in. So do you? Like, this is shit. There you go. Shit.
there it is. There it is. I was like, oh shit. Like, this makes so much sense right
Yeah.
now, because then resilience, right, is the process of facing the challenge, of facing the complexity, of facing the change, the 3 C's, and being reminded, right, of these latent talents and strengths, or being able to find them within ourselves in a moment of adversity, when we surprise ourselves, right? When we're like, oh my gosh, I don't know how I'm going to make it. And then we make it, right? Because we reach down and deep and we find stuff within ourselves that the silience, right? That we didn't know existed. And that's the beautiful part of these really crappy moments of feeling trapped and feeling scared and feeling uncertain, is that we reach down into ourselves and we find stuff that we didn't know existed or we forgot was there. And then, sort of bootstrap our way out of it, bit by bit.
I'm speechless. It doesn't happen very often because I didn't know that word either. Right. And it makes complete and total sense. I think the biggest thing too, though, right, is when we're going through that storm in our life and we think that the end is nowhere in sight. Don't judge yourself. Like, I've sat there and judged myself, I would say countless times, for not recording shows until, finally I just said, you know what? I don't really give a shit. This is not who I am. It's something that I do. And when I'm ready to roll, I'm ready to roll. And, I started getting a lot of messages from people, hey, I've listened to your last show about 15 times. Are you going to drop another episode soon? And so those kinds of things, like, I started really looking into that and say, okay, stop judging yourself for taking time off. Right. Be where your feet are, but the time is coming. People want to listen. They're getting a lot out of your show and the guests that you provide them to listen to. And, so I started feeling a sense of responsibility, for a short period of time. And then again, I'm back in that loop of judging myself for being irresponsible, right, and not providing value. But then I also realized, like, well, hey, listen, this is not where this season's going to end. And when I come back, I'm going to come back better than ever. And I feel as though I have more clarity now. I feel as though that I'm not scared to say things anymore. And I'm going to say what I'm going to say. And I think that is part of rediscovering who I am. And it kind of it definitely ties into what you were saying. So I want to, sorry, go ahead. You're going to say something. I'm sorry.
Well, I was going to offer a thought as well. I was thinking about what you were saying about, having the kids around, right? And like sort of needing the house to be quiet, kind of thing. And I think maybe too, like maybe it's sort of a myth. I don't know what your audience necessarily wants or what's meaningful for them. However, what I can tell you is I think as people have been working remotely and from home, like I really enjoy it when like someone's child like comes into the room and like peeks onto the screen. And I really enjoy it when like someone's cat like walks across the keyboard, or, somebody like, goes and gets their parrot and like shows me that it like knows how to talk. Like that stuff is really fun. And maybe rather than having like a perfectly quiet, serene background, maybe part of your show is a window into life and into determination of being and doing and creating something more, with children running around, and being able to hear a little bit of that, and even, have them, have somebody walk in and say like, hey, where are the car keys? Or, do you know where, so-and-so soccer cleats are? Like, that's life. And maybe this sort of artificial barrier that we thought was supposed to be in place, maybe part of your show and being real is allowing some of that, barrier to be erased.
Damn it. Because my wife has been telling me this for like a year.
She talked to me before the show.
Did you guys?
No.
Yeah, okay. I see what's going on here. This is like a covert, like therapy session. I see you guys working. No, I mean, you're right though. And it is a myth. It's a myth made up by me, right? It's a myth made up by years and years of corporate sales, right? And having to be so well put together during, a meeting, right? It's like, it's sacred. It's a sacred time. It's meeting. But like, to your point, when people started working remotely, that really went out the window. I mean, hell, people do meetings in shorts and, jackets for business meetings now. And, kids run in, and you're right. That's something that I am going to embrace. So thank you for that. As we get closer to the end of the show though, I want you to talk about the book. Like, let's dive in. Don't give it away now. Right. But let's give the audience a little bit of something, what they can expect and what they can learn and gain from purchasing a copy.
Sure. Absolutely. I'd be glad to. So I have a copy of the book right here because I've become that person who always has a book within like, a 4-foot circumference. And I knew that yours probably hadn't arrived yet because my publisher can send you a copy, but I really wanted to send you like a signed copy.
I love it.
I'm not back in Philadelphia. I didn't have access to be able to do that, but I do have a copy.
Look at that beautiful thing right there. I should take a picture of this. Hold on. Put that back up. Okay, hold on. Because this is going on the gram here.
Woo!
So let's talk about that real life thing, right? I would have done that before. By the way, I never announce my guest. I never do. I've always wanted to keep it kind of in my back pocket, but I did a story today and I tagged you in it. So go check it out, add it to your story if you find it appropriate. And I put a link to your pre-order the book on there. And so, yeah, no, absolutely. So I announced a guest before it came out, and guess what? Everybody's excited. They're dropping DMs like, this is awesome. I love you, man. You're back. Let's go. It's fantastic. Let's go. So, okay. So back to your book.
No, it's great. What I'll share is a couple of things. One, and this is just a really foundational piece. Resilience is the essence of being human. And that's so important because I think that really sets the tone for the book and for the conversation to go in a different direction than some of the existing conversations around resilience, right? So there's this really cool article that came out this week around the book. It was published in a local publication in Philadelphia called Philly Mag by this beautiful woman named Laura Breesky. And the title of the article ended up being something akin to like, everything you thought about you knew about resilience is wrong, right? And I was like, Laura, thank you for seeing me.
I love it. I love it. She listened. Unbelievable.
And, there's this sort of resilience dread spiral that people get into. And one of my dear friends, Mona Patel, really brought this to my attention. And she was like, I hate resilience. And I was like, why do you hate resilience? It's like hating like puppies and
or chocolate cake.
Right. Like who does that? Right. But what it is I think that people have felt like resilience is something that, they're supposed to put their head down. They're supposed to just grind harder, not feel their feelings. People talk about, I've seen on social media, like, I'm so tired of being resilient. I don't want to be resilient anymore. Like all these kinds of things. And I think we've really confused what resilience is, right? Like if we're feeling kind of crappy, it's the large volume of intensity of the challenge, the change, and the complexity that exists in our lives. But that's not resilience's fault, right? Resilience is here as kind of the skill set, right? To help us move through those moments, right? So if we're tired of anything, it's the 3 C's. It's the challenge, it's the change, and it's the complexity. And, it's really important to recognize really 2 things, right? And we can kind of close up on this if it feels right for you. One is, when we think about resilience being the essence of being human, that takes us out of this dialogue of like, am I resilient? Am I resilient enough? Am I going to be found lacking? Am I a resilience imposter? Right? It's like, no, like the resilience lives within us, right? We're all inherently resilient. How do I know that? Because you and I and everyone listening has lived through every disappointment, betrayal, loss, crisis, health diagnosis, disappointing turn of events, even when we didn't think we were going to make it. Here we are, right? So we have all proven our resilience medal. We've all proven that resilience lives and exists within us. And that means we get to stop looking outside of ourselves and we get to look within ourselves. And that is a fundamental and deeply important shift. And the second thing is the 3 C's: challenge, change, and complexity. This is the fabric of what it means to be human. We are not going to be able to engineer these things out of our lives. And so to your point earlier, Shawn, we get to stop feeling bad about facing challenge, about facing change, about facing complexity, about being in moments of crisis, because this is just what it means when we signed up to be embodied as a human in this life. It's part of what we are going to experience. And those things become some of our greatest teachers in life.
There could be no better way to end the show than that. I appreciate all of that. And you're right. I think there needs to be more of looking inward than outward. All the answers are within us. We just have to open that up. And I have had such an amazing time. What a way to come back and to have you on my show. Like truly, like, and guys, those of you that have followed my show know that I don't say things I don't mean. Like I truly, you have been one of my favorite conversations I've ever had. So thank you for that. Thank you. And for those of you that are listening, please, as you know, or if you're listening for the first time, subscribe to the show, leave a review, share this specific episode out, and tag us. I'd love to reshare it to my socials and hear what you think about it, and send me a DM of how this episode and Dr. Taryn Marie gave value to your life, because that's what I'm here to do. So with that being said, Taryn, thank you again. It's been a great pleasure and just an amazing beginning to our friendship. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. And for you guys out there, you guys stay resilient, pick up her book, and you guys have an amazing day. Love your people. Stay safe. Chat soon.